going to know?
Right.
Ooh,
hello, we are now live on UK Crime Book Club, and that's how we know, because I'll tell you. I am going to disappear in a second. So, Tony, do you want to go first and introduce yourself? And then we'll have Andy follow. And I will disappear because I was not supposed to be on camera, but Andrew Barrett's the liability.
You sending me the wrong links, pal.
I did not. Oh, cars, I quit. Right, Tony, go ahead. Introduce yourself while I link us in.
Okay, so I'm Tony J. Forder. I write crime and thriller books, and I suppose my best-known character is D.I. Bliss. And I've now got 8 of those books out, plus about 4 or 5 others. So, I'm very much enjoying myself at the moment with writing and editing, even though there's parts of editing I don't like.
There's always going to be bits that aren't your favourite thing, though, aren't there? Right, yeah. Andy, come on, say hello.
Hello, everybody. My name's Andrew Barrett, or Andy, or Git, or Oi, whichever you prefer. I write CSI kind of thrillers that are floating around at the moment. I'm known, I guess, for the Eddie Collins character, and I've written 6 or 7 novels with him now. 3 with Socko Roger Coniston at the turn of the century, and about 4 short stories. Oh, and an independent standalone thriller called The End of Lies here. So that's me. I like writing and I like editing as well. So I thought
you like all of the bits.
Yeah, I love it.
Right, I have now pinned you so we can be found. Hi, Steve. We've got Steve with us already from California.
Hi, Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
And hello, Tony, as well, Tony Millington.
Hi,
first thing
Tony.
I'm going to ask you both before I leave you to it, because
What, you're leaving?
That's an area. I know, dangerous. Yeah. So, main characters, where did Bliss come from, Tony?
Oh, I don't really know. I was scratching around for a new character. I'd not been in Peterborough overly long, and I was thinking of a new character to write set in the city. I'd only written 1 book before, and I'd had a go at writing another crime novel. I didn't really like the end product. It was called Burnout, and it was okay, but it wasn't, at the end of it, I just felt a bit flat. But the character that I'd used, D.I. Bliss, I quite liked him. But I'd kind of done a very easy character at the time. He was someone displaced from London, having moved up to Peterborough, which was me. So that was fairly, that was a fairly easy idea to run with. But as for the character himself, I just decided, if I was going to write somebody that I might have to live with for a little while, I wanted to make him very human, with human weaknesses, etc. But as for his actual character, he's really an amalgam of lots of different people that I know, including me, I suppose.
Go on, Andy. Eddie Collins.
He's a tough one. The first book I wrote with Eddie Collins was called The Third Rule, and I wrote that about 2004 and finished it off in 2012 after a bit of a break doing some script writing. And I used to write Roger Coniston. I wrote 3 books with Roger Coniston, and he was a nice guy. He was all right, was Roger, but I wanted somebody who was a git for The Third Rule. I wanted somebody with some balls, somebody that people could go, woo, well, I wish I could do that. I wish I had the guts to do what he's doing. Faced with authority and being told off by your boss, and you wish you could just poke him in the eye. And that was Eddie Collins. And I didn't give a damn whether people liked him or not when I first started writing him. In fact, I wanted people to dislike him. I wanted a character that people could go, oh, this guy's serious. This guy, I'm glad I don't work with this guy, but I wish he was on my side if I needed him. Like a victim of crime. He's very loyal towards victims of crime. but he's a git to everybody who stands in his way. And that's the kind of character I wanted, somebody with some verve, somebody with some guts. And that's what I got. That's what I got. And he's a real beast to write sometimes. And it wasn't until I got to book 6 that people were emailing me and saying, "Are you him? Is he you?" and it suddenly dawned on me that, well, it didn't suddenly dawn on me. It dawned on me over a few months actually that, oh yes, I suppose he is actually. It's more me than anything else. That because you invent a character, but you include a lot of your own self in him. If you put a character in a position, you actually feel what he's feeling. Because if you don't, you're not writing him properly. You're not being true to him. And so I am Eddie Collins, I suppose, and it's a bit scary because I've got to rein myself in when I have the arguments with my bosses. I've got to rein myself in, otherwise I get sacked. He doesn't get sacked, but I would. So yeah, that's Eddie Collins in a nutshell.
We've got lots of hello messages. So we said hi to Steve and Tony. Donna says hi to us. And
hi.
Who's that?
Andrew says hello. What on earth are you doing?
Makes beer.
And Cav says hello as well. So, it's one of my new favourite questions. What was the last scene that you wrote? Don't give anything away. No spoilers. Think very carefully. And I'm going to hide. Can you both see the questions now?
Nope.
No.
Okay, I'll stay here.
I could see it a moment ago in the normal feed in discussion.
I did tag you in it, so you should be able to find it.
But I can't see it in discussion or announcements.
If you look at your notifications, tune in for a Facebook and Be Live lesson, everyone. If you go to your notifications, you'll see that I tagged you in it. So then it should take you straight to it.
Oh, wait a minute.
Notifications, tune in for a Facebook. Oh dear, I can hear myself. I don't like that.
Oh, I got it.
You need to pause the one that's on Facebook so that it doesn't interfere with this one. I knew this was going to be fun. Should have put my alcohol in a glass.
Why don't you send out a PDF with instructions to begin with?
Generally, Andrew Barrett, we have a practice.
Yeah, but you were sleeping
people aren't
last
too
night,
busy.
weren't you?
9:25, I'm old.
Beer. You'd have to stay and read the questions, all right. It's not hard, is it?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a few. I can see it, but it's
good.
From about like 10 minutes ago, I think.
Right, I'll just stay put. It's fine. I will stay here. At least I brushed my hair.
I'm saying.
Right, so somebody has asked, what are your next projects? And then I'll go back to my previous question about the last thing that you wrote. So, Tony, what are you working on at the moment?
Well, I'm currently working on a new Bliss book. About 2 months ago, I finished a brand new book, which is the first in an intended new series. That's called The Huntsman. But I've deliberately taken a bit of a step back just to think about what I'm going to do with this one, whether I'm going to look for a publisher for it or whether I'm going to publish it myself. I'm weighing up the pros and cons of both at the moment. I'm in no urgent rush. But that is, if I publish that myself, that will be my next book out. If I go the other way and perhaps go with a publisher, if anyone's interested in it, that probably won't get out until next year. But what I'm actually writing, what I was writing today, is a brand new Bliss.
Excellent. So what was the last scene that you wrote? Can you tell us without giving anything away?
Yeah, I can actually. It was Jimmy does quite a bit of reflecting on things, and I'm only about 12 chapters in, so the case is getting underway. And this is his first pause, really. First time he's had to reflect on what's been going on, because he's been up for about almost 2 full days. So he's a bit knackered. and he's feeling it because he's getting on a bit, as I do. So this scene was about him just sitting back. He's collapsed into his chair. He can't even bring himself to pour a beer. That's how tired he is. And so he's just sitting there contemplating what's happened and what his next move is. And he's desperate. He's gagging for a beer, and he's, he just can't pull himself out of the chair. And I'm about halfway through that scene. That was the last thing I wrote.
Andy, what are you working on at the moment?
Well, remember we spoke about the third rule, which was Eddie Collins' first novel. And since then we've gone through Black Biro, Sword of Damocles, blah blah blah, up to This Side of Death. Well, I've discovered that the third rule, it doesn't belong in this series because the third rule has a bit of politics in it, a bit messing about, and the rest of the series is just pure crime thriller, really. So I've taken a big step forward, and I'm going to bin the third rule off, give it to another character as a standalone book, and I'm going to write a new first of series book for Eddie Collins. So far it's called The Pain of Strangers or something like that. I can't remember actually. And in it we rediscover Eddie again, if you like, without all the political trappings that go on in the third rule. It's a much shorter book. The third rule was a really big, silly big book, but this new book is going to be hopefully a bit shorter.
And what was the last scene that you wrote?
A young female officer goes to see an old guy because the old guy witnessed a young fella being killed the night before, and she goes to see him unbeknownst that the old guy is the killer.
Ooh. That better not be a spoiler.
I don't know whether she makes it out the scene or yet. I do not know. I promise you. She might do. She might not. Don't know. But this one involves maybe a little bit of drugs in this one, as well as some mental health issues. Yeah, I'm writing. It's a good one. This one, I think. I like it.
We've got some more hellos. We've got Diane Saxon with us, and Andrew's with us. Hello,
Hi,
both.
Diane.
Hi, Diane and Andrew.
And Diane wisely says, "Oh no, it was Tony. You won't win arguing with Sam, Andy." Well, you already know that, don't you? You already know.
Some of the messages she sends me, Tony, it's disgusting. I tell you.
Cows are still quit. And Diane says, "We love you to hang around." Oh, good. That is good, because I have literally gatecrashed your evening.
Welcome aboard.
Technological issues. Sorry, say again.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, actually. Yeah.
Rosie Bray says hello. Sorry, they're a bit late to the party. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Hope you're feeling all right.
So, how far in advance do you know what's going to happen with books? Because Tony, you were saying you've taken a bit of time out to have a think, which I knew, but I wouldn't have said if you hadn't have brought it up. Obviously, I wasn't sure how close-knit you were keeping that. So I'm glad you've come to the conclusion of carrying on with things. But how far in advance do you know what you're going to be doing?
It really depends what part of the cycle I'm in, because, it is a constant cycle of writing and editing and then getting the book prepared to go and then starting again. So at any given time, I could be sort of finishing one project and have nothing to do, which happened last time, or have 2 or 3 things to do. In terms of thinking further ahead, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to write a new series. I had the characters in my head, I had the setting in my head, and I wanted to really basically get one started before Bliss ended, so that hopefully I'd brought along a new series, so that by the time I had to finally wind up working with Jimmy Bliss, people would have taken to the new series. It hasn't quite worked out like that, as all things do. When I plan something, that's invariably where it goes wrong. So I'm very instinctive, and instinctively I knew at the end of the Autumn Tree, which was the last Bliss book, that I was going to do another one, but I didn't have a story. For the first time, I didn't have a story because all my focus was on this other new book. So yeah, I was going to leave it, and I was going to take a complete step back from writing for a little while. But as I'm sure Andy knows, those things occur inside your head, and you just can't keep them quiet, really. And the only way to stop them reverberating inside your brain is to write them. So I had to start a new Bliss book, and I had an idea which was a subplot, really. And I really liked the idea of the subplot, but I didn't have a main plot at that time. So I wrote some scenes for the subplot. And that just spurred an idea. And, that's where that comes. Sometimes I'll know a couple of books in advance. But this time I really did start from scratch with nothing prepared. And actually, I felt quite good about that.
Well, it seems to be working for you. How about you, Andy? How far in advance do you know? How many books in advance do you know? Or do you not know?
No, I don't know. Once I finished the new book 1, which I have no idea what's going to happen in that. Obviously, Eddie survives. That's all I know. The good thing about the book 1 thing is we're seeing a new kind of introduction to all the other main characters, your Bensons and your Rosies and all that kind of stuff, which I'm really enjoying, finding out how we can meet these people again in a different fashion. It's very mind expanding. But going on to the last book, This Side of Death, that left readers with a big ooh, what's going to happen next? It's a bit of I won't call it a cliffhanger, but that Eddie has something in his past which is about to come and bite him in the bum, and I've got to try to work out what happens, and I've not a clue. I have no idea. I have not a clue. I've got other, like Tony, I've got other irons in the fire. I've got I was thinking about doing a book from Benson's point of view. He's the detective inspector who meshes with Eddie all the way through the series. He's like the one that we bounce off. Eddie's got 2 characters that he bounces from. His father, Charles. It's a little bit like Steptoe and Son, and I do like a little bit of Steptoe and Son. And the guy he bounces from is D.I. Benson. And I was going to do I don't know whether it's a short story, a novella, or a full novel where Benson is the center stage and something happens to Eddie. And I can't really say more than that because it's might be a bit of a tearjerker. And I've got lots of other ideas as well that trip over themselves, trying to get to the front of my mind. I'm not stuck for work. I'm just stuck for time, that's all, but not work.
Yeah, you are hard to pin down, definitely. You've just got so much going on, and then and expanding family as well. I mean, you just haven't got any time.
I know. Tell me about it. You noticed my eyes are red. That's not just through boobs,
Diane Saxon has asked if you are plotters or pantsers. So, Tony, let's go back to you.
What was that question?
Diane wants to know if you're a plotter or a pantser.
I'm very much a pantster. I think probably the furthest I've plotted is about 3 or 4 chapters. I kind of I'm at various points in a book where before a book I'll hardly write anything. I'll just have notes, and they'll guide me. But a book in my head can start anywhere. So for the last book, the first opening chapter came to me in one big hit, and that was the first thing I wrote. But in previous books, it's been various scenes or various incidents, and those have captured my imagination, or a character, or a single line sometimes. I mean, in one of them, it was just the title. So when it comes to that kind of thing, I don't plot very hard because basically I'm lazy and I'm impatient, and I just want to write, and I don't want to spend a month plotting out a book. I'd rather be writing the book. And also, I just, flying by the seat of your pants gives you that extra little bit of boost when at 70% through the book, you still haven't got a bloody clue what's going on. So, when you reach that point and you're suddenly panicking, that's when you're sort of hoping and you're not sleeping very much and you're hoping that an idea will just worm its way into your brain. So far it has. But then once I have that idea, I quickly jot down some notes for how I'm going to get from where I am to where I want to be. And it changes daily. It changes as I'm writing. I'll suddenly find I'm doing something with a character that I hadn't imagined doing. I'll have them saying something that leads me to another thought. And I think, oh, that might be an interesting device. So I'll go down that route. Because the beauty of it is the magic of editing, because once you've done your first draft, you go and start the book all over again, really.
Andy?
Well, very much like Tony. Always a pantster, always have been. The only time I make any detailed notes, I'll do like a flow chart of options available to me when I get stuck, or when I'm nearing the end and I need a good ending and I've not thought of one. So I'll sit down with an A3 sheet of paper and I'll describe where we are. And sometimes I'll know where I need to go, but mostly I don't. And from there, I'll draw out, could this happen? Could that happen? Which is the most feasible? Which is the most bang for buck as far as the story goes? So I'm very much like Tony. I was driving over from this village into a village called Woodlesford, which is about 3 or 4 miles down the road, and we go over a river and then over a canal. And I could have swore as we went over the river that there was a body under the water there. It wasn't, because I went back and looked. But I thought, wow, what brilliant scene that could be. And that was the first scene I wrote in Leadston Look. And there were 2 or 3 other scenes that I wrote, including a naked female farmer sat in a farmhouse kitchen with a shotgun at her side. And I thought, what could she be doing? So I had a couple of burglars come in, and she dispatched them using the shotgun and a spade, I think it was. And that was the crux of the story for Leadston Look. Didn't have a foggiest where I was going to go with that until the 2/3 of the way through, and I knew where I wanted the ending to be. But how the hell did I get there?
Yeah.
And I remember that particular book. I've written about this lots of times when people ask me. I was in the shower, and suddenly the twist hit me, and I almost fell out the shower. Oh my God! What an epiphany! What a moment that was! I loved it, and that's the thing. That's the beauty about writing with no plan. It's biological. Yeah. It grows. It takes on a life of its own. And like Tony said, a character can say something, and you think, "Oh, I never thought of that. That's brilliant. I'll use that." So yeah, I love it. I love it.
I love that. But sitting here looking at you two, just smiling, you look quite normal. And then I think of the scenes that I've read from you both, and I go, inside your heads must be a very interesting place to be.
Sorry, but what do you mean by quite normal?
Exactly what I said. I'll dig myself back out the hole again now. Will Templeton says hello.
Hi, Will.
Hello, Will.
Hi.
We love Will. So Andrew has asked a question, and it says, Tony, you've just mentioned finishing your book. Is it a lot easier to publish yourself? There's a lot of detail to this. I'll keep going. He would have thought it's easier to publish it yourself because you're able to do the editing yourself. Whereas if publisher, the editor may say about your characters, where because you've worked on it, you'd know all about it.
Yeah, it is. It is. You have a pros and cons list. I mean, I've had both. I've been published. I'm now self-published. Well, I'm a bit both really, because I still have the rights to my first 5 books. So, yes, it's easier to make the decisions yourself, and it's nice to make all those. So no one's going to take the title away from you. You're going to get the cover you want. You're going to publish when you want. You're going to set the prices that you want. So there's a lot of pros to doing it yourself. the one thing that I would hope that publishing or going with a publisher again might do for me is to take a new series wider. So I would hope that, for instance, you know, those who have come on the journey with DI Bliss with me would at least try this first new book from a new series.
Yeah.
But, you know, because it is new, I might lose a few readers who might not want to switch over. And I need to gain some new readers from somewhere. And I wonder, you know, there's the possibility that a publisher could do that for me. So I am in a quandary with it. I don't know. I have enjoyed the freedom over the last sort of 16, 18 months. I've enjoyed making all those decisions, and you know, you live and die by it. I mean, I've got a great editor, which came through Andy. I have a great cover designer, which I think came from Maggie James. So, you know, I've picked up a lot from people who were already doing it, and I've enjoyed the freedom. But if I'm ever going to go with a publisher again, I think this is the ideal moment with the first book in a brand new series. So I have to at least consider it. Whether I'll do that or not, I don't know.
Yeah, it's understandable though. Andy, do you like the freedom of doing it all yourself?
Yeah, I do. I was with a publisher in about 2017. For the most part, we had a reasonable working relationship. But I think I must be a bit of a control freak because they want. I know it's hard to believe, but there you go. They wanted the book titles changing and this changing and that changing, and I think we had different aims, and they were so strong as a difference that we parted company. It was easier for me to work by myself. It's a lot of work. Like Tony says, an awful lot of work. Everything from cover design, editing, getting it through Amazon, all the formatting, interior and exterior formatting is awful. It can be awful. A lot of people fall at that hurdle. But ultimately,
me, I do.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's very, very rewarding. I've taken a step back from advertising. I've not done any advertising for months, and I'm still selling books, but not very much. But when I get the first book finished, then we'll kickstart the engine, get that engine running again, and hopefully things will pick up a bit. Because I really like them too. But like everything's taken a back seat for the time being until I get this first book in the series done. And then we can start all over again, rolling forward with the advertising and hopefully pick up some new readers and such.
Don has asked, is there anything about your main characters that only you know? Oh, I don't like the sound of that laugh. Thanks, Don. Oh, what I just walked into.
You asked me that one, whatever you do.
Go on, Tony. Is there anything about your main characters that you know that nobody else does?
Yes.
Are you going to keep it that way, or are you going to share?
No, I'm not going to share it, because otherwise then people would know.
Fair enough.
Same here.
Well, that was short and sweet. Cheers, Donna. So Chris Whitaker, it's not the author Chris Whitaker, but hi Chris, you get tagged in so many things for the author of We Begin at the End, and it's not you, and I appreciate your good grace with it.
I can see some comments, but they're all by Facebook user.
Some of them do say Facebook user, but I'm looking on my phone on Facebook so I can see who they are. So Chris has said he knows Tony's work but not Andy's. What's the name of the first book in the series? I'm going to expand this slightly so you can both tell us, for anyone who's not read any books yet, both give us a bit of a hint about the series, the first and the last one in the series, and whether they need to be read in order. So let's go with you first, Tony. Let's tell some books.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have two standalone books. I have two books in an action thriller series, but I'm best known for the character DI Bliss. Essentially, he's based in the city where I live, which is Peterborough. He works out of a real police station, which is just down the road, and I have an insider there who provides me with a lot of information about how the things work there and what it looks like, and it helps me to see it better in my mind. The first book came out in 2017, and I've just recently published book 8. There's also a novella, a prequel novella as well in the series. I would say you don't have to read them in order. You can jump in really anywhere. And because I refer to previous cases and previous characters, but I don't dwell on them. But I think most people would agree that if you start at the beginning, you get the character development, because when I first wrote Bad to the Bone, which is the first book in the series, I didn't know there was going to be a series. I didn't write it as the first book in a series. I wish I could go back and now do that, but I can't. It's gone, so I have to now move on. But what I think is that since I realised I was going to have a series, I've developed the characters over a big arc, so they're still developing as we go along, and I think that keeps it fresh. Because I think you have to do, it's not just your stories that have to be fresh. It's not just your dialogue. People can't tire of the characters. So I've introduced new ones. I've dumped the odd one. But the main ones, to keep them fresh, I just keep them changing ever so slightly as we go through. I think you can jump in anywhere. But yeah, again, I'd love it if you started at book 1 and read all the way through.
So, Andy, I'm going to ask you to answer the same question, but you have decided to make some changes, to go back and change something.
Well, yeah, I wrote the third rule with Eddie Collins as a standalone. I finished writing the 3 books for Roger Coniston, and I wanted a new character, a new book, but it was only going to be 1. It was, but then I liked Eddie Collins so much. The ending of the third rule sort of makes it quite difficult to then carry on into a series, so I manufactured it, and I did all right. A lot of people do notice that it goes from slightly dystopian to present day, which is a bit of a fupa, really, which is one of the reasons why I'm binning it, because apart from the political element, and it's not really politics, but there's a background of politics to it. So apart from that, I want to get rid of the slight dystopian feel, because we have a new government coming who bring back the death penalty in the third rule. And so I wanted to sort of distance myself from that when I moved on to the next book, which was Black by Rose, which is just a normal crime thriller. A very good normal crime thriller, but just a normal crime thriller. And it has nothing to do with politics. So you get people who read the third rule thinking, oh, this is good, it's got politics in it, and go to Black by Rose and disappointed because there's no politics in it. And vice versa, you've got people who want a crime thriller who read a bit of third rule and then bin it because it's got politics in it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to rewrite number 1 again, just to make it a pure crime thriller, and then hopefully it'll step easily on to Black by Rose, which is the second book. And what was the rest of the question again?
Do they need to be read in order, and tell us where the series currently starts and finishes?
It starts at the moment with the third rule, and it goes through Black by Rose, Sword of Damocles, Leadston Luck, The Death of Jessica Ripley, and then on to The Side of Death. They're the novels out. We've got 4 novellas as well, The Lift, The Lock, and another 2 I can't remember now. But no, you don't need to read them in order, but very much like Tony, again, if you don't, you probably miss out on a bit of character development that's purposefully written into the books. You can jump in at any point and read it and hopefully enjoy the story, but if you do, you're just missing out on a little bit of nuances along the way, a bit of character development. The arc's quite important, and as far as Eddie Collins is concerned, we're reaching probably just beyond the midway of the arc I've got planned for him, where this thing happens in book 7 that I alluded to earlier on, but I can't tell you about. So we're on our way down again now, and people are discovering new things about him all the time, including myself. I read a series by Bernard Cornwell, The Winter King, a 3-series, a trilogy, with a lead character called Derfel, I think it was, Dervel. It's written in sort of medieval times. And I was absolutely gobsmacked by this guy and how he managed to write a trilogy. And the big books, it got to the end of the last book. And I just thought, how did he do this? He must have planned out all 3 books before he even started writing the first book. Tony and I don't write like that. So it's amazing that our arts are still continuing. But this guy, honestly, hands down, superb writer. It's not crime or anything, but a really good writer. And that's the kind of thing I like to emulate. But yes, short answer, please, you can read them in any order, but go for the order if you can.
Absolutely. I'm just laughing because Tony Millington said about 10 minutes ago, authors are not normal.
I am.
And Donna said AJ isn't normal.
He's not.
I'm perfectly normal, thank you.
Oh, and Donna's apologising for the question that didn't get an answer. Well, it got a very short answer.
Well, it's kind of one of those where if you ask to know what people don't know, if you give the answer, then they're going to know, and you won't be able to ever answer that same question again.
Will said, if you don't enjoy formatting, imagine taking works from 22 different authors and collating. Oh, this is going to be dangerous.
Don't do that. Hats off to you, Will.
I did it without knocking him on the head. So, if you don't enjoy formatting, imagine taking works from 22 different authors and collating them into one anthology, which is this one. Tell us about your stories in the anthology. Tony.
Yeah, okay, I've forgotten the title.
I'm looking.
Anyway.
So this is Eye Contact and yours is Mission Accomplished.
Oh right, yeah, I remember it now. Now I'd previously said to Will that I wanted to do a story for this book, but I'd stopped writing. I used to write loads of short stories. In fact, I used to get short stories published, but I hadn't written a short story in donkey's years, and I really wanted to do one, but I couldn't think of anything, and so I went to my standby, which is obviously Jimmy Bliss, and I thought, my entire idea for the story was I'm gonna send Jimmy Bliss over to see his mum in Ireland, and Penny Chandler's going to go with him. That was my entire idea. So I started writing the journey from the airport, and I just wrote the story. I had no plan for it. I had no idea where it was going to go. And I think it's quite long. It ended up about 6,000 or 7,000 words, and I hadn't intended to do that at all. But yeah, it is about them going over to Ireland to see his mum, and they come upon a petrol station. They're supposed to stop and ask for directions, but Jimmy spots that something has just happened there, and although the guy behind the counter won't tell him, he's suspicious. So needless to say, while he's supposed to be spending time with his mum, him and Penny start investigating what's going on in this petrol station, and it involves all kinds of various slightly dubious Irish characters.
Andy, tell us about Eye Contact.
Eye Contact. I was stuck for something to write. Again, Tony could be my twin, as it turns out. I was stuck for something to write, because I think, was the limit 5,000, or did it have to be beyond 5,000? I can't remember.
It was above 3 and below 10.
Oh right, yeah. Well, I wanted something I can't remember the word count now. I think it was 6,000 or 7,000. It turned out at the end. But good friend of mine, Kath Middleton, she says, "Why don't you write something about Eddie and Charles? Charles being Eddie's dad, and they bounce off each other. And it's a relief from the heavy crime stuff that Eddie gets involved with." And I thought, well, that'd be a good idea. So I had Charles turning 70, and I wanted Eddie to go and buy him a gift. So Eddie, being Eddie, was pretending to take Charles to this bargain basement place and saying, "Fill your boots, fill your basket, go on, get as much as you like. Do some athlete's foot powder there. Go on, get yourself some athlete's foot powder." When in actual fact he was going to go and take him to the jeweller's next door. I'm not going to tell you what for in case you happen to read it. But as they're turning up to the jeweller's next door, the jewellers next door suffer a ram raid, and Eddie gets himself embroiled with the ram raiders, and forensic elements happen throughout this particular story, and it finishes off quite poignantly, quite nicely, because it's called Eye Contact, and the people at work as Eddie's leaving work say, don't just wish him happy birthday with your head down reading a paper. Make eye contact. It's very important. It means a lot to people. It's a building. It's a bond, and so that's why it's called Eye Contact. And I'll leave it there. I won't tell you too much more in case you do read it.
So I will say that you can buy it on Amazon, and it's free on Kindle Unlimited, and you can buy it in paperback, and it's in aid of Red Kite Academy, which is a school in Corby in Northants. So go and, if you've not bought it already, go and do yourselves a favour, buy a copy and introduce yourself to Tony and Andy's work if you've not already.
Well done, Sam.
Thank you. I think it's the first time I've done a whole sales spiel with it. Alex Shaw wants to know what your favourite writing tipple is. Hi, Alex. So go on, Tony, favourite writing tipple. Well,
sadly, I don't have a writing tipple. I don't drink. Well, I certainly don't drink alcohol while I'm writing. I tend to save my alcohol for the other sort of 18 hours in the day. So no, I don't drink that. I'll have a cuppa and I'll have some water, but no alcohol, I'm afraid. If it was to be, then it would be, probably a light lager or my favorite Guinness. But no, I think, I'd be more interested in the beer than the writing.
Yeah, common problem.
Yeah.
Go on, Andy.
Me, it's coffee. Dolce Gusto, Americano, please, grazie. I love it, and I'll drink it one cup after another all day long. If I'm doing writing for 14 hours, I'll go through 14 cups of coffee, no problem. But just for special occasions like this, it's John Smith's. Thank you. Cheers. But
cheers. I'll hold up my water.
Cheers.
I wasn't supposed to be on camera, so my alcohol is still in its receptacle. So I'm not drinking it.
Yeah, right. We've heard that one before.
Donna wants to know if there's any significance to all the little objects on the shelves behind you. So, Tony, I see that you've got Sebastian.
Yeah, well, all of those, we once kind of allowed my daughter to think that they were all hers, but really they're all mine. I'm a great lover of kind of Disney and Pixar stuff. So down the years, I've got just on the wall to my right, I've got a mural that I did for my daughter years ago, and it's got all these kind of characters on it. But yeah, those most of those characters are sort of from her. The only other one that's on the top, you might not be able to see it. There's a kind of skeletal banjo player sitting up there.
Just kind of see it.
Yeah, and he works. He actually does play the banjo. Yeah, I don't know why I have it, to be quite honest. There's just something that was seen and sort of thought, yeah, that's amusing. So I occasionally amuse myself by putting that on.
So Andy, at the office end where you sat now, do you have any bits and pieces that are significant to you?
No, but I have.
I tried to think what's about to happen.
Similar to Tony's, I have a little skeleton as well. I don't have a name for her. Give her a name, or him. That's a competition for you. Give her a name. So I don't know what her name is. Behind me is my printer. Where am I? My vape juice. A box of mice. And
I'm sorry, a box of mice?
Yeah. mice, not.
Oh,
Mice. I get used. I have a Logitech mouse at the moment. It's beautiful. I've had it for about 2 years. It's wearing
yeah.
out. So I don't throw things
Got the
away.
same one. I love my Logitech mouse.
Yeah, I've got one as well.
I'm after a Logitech keyboard now. I have a Logitech keyboard. It's a solar one, and I'm after a new MX one. It's got dimples where your fingers go, and it's supposed to be lush to write with. So I might save up and get one of those next. We have a printer. We have a stack of books. All that kind of stuff. Boxes and boxes of envelopes that I've never opened because I'm bad with stuff like that. And just junk. Over there is my bookcase. Well, one of the.
Oh, with criminal shorts on it.
Yeah, I put that there on purpose. You noticed.
Of course,
Yeah,
I noticed. Mike Hemming says hello. He says late as usual.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. I feel like I've not seen you for ages, Mike. And
before we move on, can I just show him? He's what stares at me while I'm writing.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I've watched that.
He's on a shelf that's right opposite me, and he just stares at me menacingly, forcing me to write every day.
I'm going to show you something that I have in front of me that I received as a gift a few weeks ago.
Do you really think you ought to?
Yeah.
Think twice.
It does kind of have swear words on it, kind of, but they do have an asterisk, so they're not quite. But Kat Yaff, you know Kat Yaff, Catherine Yaff, author.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely adore her, and she sent me a card. I don't know if you can see it. Most people are, but you're brilliant. So that sits in front of me all day. So when I'm working from home, I'm reminded that I am not rubbish. I am brilliant.
Good.
Wow, brilliant.
It helps. It really works. If you're having a moment of self-doubt, you look up and you think, right, yeah, come on, get on with it, crack on. Donna said she's laughing. She's being nosy tonight. Leslie Lloyd suggested Matilda. Not a bad name, actually.
Matilda is?
Matilda, I like that. Steve wants to know which writers and books have influenced or inspired you, and do you have any favourite books you've read this year? That is a good question, my friend. So, Tony, influences inspired you and favourite books?
When I was young, I read a lot of horror and dark fantasy stuff. So Stephen King was my big hero. I then kind of read a book that took me, that kind of partially, I thought was partially horrific and partially crime, which was Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. And it was the first appearance of Hannibal Lecter. And for me, it was kind of a bridge. It was a bridge from the dark stuff into crime. And obviously Silence of the Lambs followed. I mean, they're two of my favorite books, although Thomas Harris, he writes so irregularly, I couldn't really consider him to be a favorite writer. But it was those that really took me over into crime. And probably my biggest influence, I would say, is Michael Connelly, who writes the Harry Bosch series. I mean, he writes other stuff as well, but Harry Bosch is my favorite detective. And that's influenced me hugely.
Andy?
The two authors that stand out for me are James Herbert and Stephen King, because again, like Tony, I grew up with horror and also a bit of fantasy as well. Do you remember reading Lord of the Rings and wondering why the hell they didn't get an eagle there to begin with?
Yeah.
That kind of ruined it, did that thought for me. But yes, Stephen King, James Herbert with Rats, loved them. I also like I said, Bernard Cornwell, Jeffrey Deaver. Went to Skyved to go and see Jeffrey Deaver when he went there about 10, 15 years ago to Waterstones in Leeds. Yeah. My mate skived off to go and see that. Stephen King is massive in my life. I won't say I've read all of his books because I certainly haven't, but I've read a fair few. It's been probably one of my favourites. But I also liked, can't think of it now, The Stand. That was the unabridged version. Brilliant. So the character development in that is stunning. Loved it. and you can take a lot away from Stephen King, and also the on-writing. That's invaluable if you're a new writer. Read that. Stunning, very good.
I've got on-writing behind me, and
have you read it?
Yeah, of course I've read it.
Why aren't you writing then?
I am writing.
Are you?
But I'm doing it. Yeah, but we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. But backing away very quickly from the question. I've got a very well thumbed copy of The Shining, and it's terrifying. Even at my age, it's terrifying.
The Shining is one of my favourites. The Shining is one of only 2 books that I've read all the way through without stopping. And the other book. Well, yes, I stopped to take a leak, but that was about it.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm not going to describe it for you. But yeah, so The Shining was one, and the other one was Jaws. Those 2 books blew me away. Yeah.
I'm just looking at how battered this copy of it is. It's bent and all sorts. Should
That's
probably invest in a new one.
I like
before the cover falls off.
like that.
Yeah, I've still got all my originals of books like that. I've still got all my original Stephen King's, all the paper hardbacks. Yeah.
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
Yeah, my son has been reading Stephen King, and he's read more than I have now. So I don't know. I feel like my thing as a kid was point horror. So and here's you with The Shining.
My very first book that I wrote was horror. Charlotte's Lodge, it was called, and it was crap. But I was really interested, right?
Yeah,
yeah, that's good.
Have either of you got books that are in a drawer that you might get out again one day, but you've put them away because you just think that was rubbish?
I wrote Charlotte's
Lodge. Back out and look and think, oh, I was a bit harsh on myself there.
Well, I wrote Charlotte's Lodge, like I said, in the early 80s or mid 80s, whenever it was. And I thought, the story concept is quite good. The story itself was reasonable. But when I started to reread it again, and I thought there's a I don't know if it's even an unspoken rule, but there is a rule when you write that you don't character jump, head hop. Right, head hop in the same scene. So split it up with asterisks, do whatever you like, but make sure it's separated. Well, there's so much head hopping goes on in this thing. I got to chapter 2 to do the rewrite and thought, sod this, I'll binned it. I'll never touch it again. Same thing happened with another horror one called Knaves Maya and Lord and Master. They were all garbage, but all extremely valuable in getting to where I am now. So I would never, I'll never show them, but in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I've got I've gone back so far. I've got handwritten versions before computers came around. Actually, they're on papyrus. So yeah, and again, it was kind of dark fantasy horror stuff when I was really into that, and it was, it was a rip off of everybody I'd ever read, basically, written with the desire of a madman but with no skill. So, in those days, I didn't know how to go from writing short stories of sort of 5,000 words to a book of 100,000. I had no conception of the differences and how to go about doing that. So it was, it was basically a lot of little short stories put together to form a book, almost, little scenes. So it was fairly horrific, and I still have it in a folder. It's one of those things that I don't want to throw away, but I would never show it to anybody, and I would never bother to read it again either, because I know it's crap.
It's Kath Middleton taught me about head hopping, and I've no idea what Kath actually sounds like, but I have a voice for her in my head. And if I'm ever head hopping, I get told off. I've never told her that I do that, I don't think. So,
but head hopping seems to be allowed these days.
Yeah.
Not the way I do it.
I don't like it, really.
No, I don't.
No, not a fan of it.
No.
Will says, Stephen King and James Herbert are must-reads for crime thriller writers of a certain age. William, are you trying to get me into trouble? I've already said not quite normal.
We don't know
very quickly.
Well, clearly I'm older than Andy, but yeah, I mean, he was, as my interest in reading sort of moved on from childhood into adulthood, I came along with Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Peter Straub, and James Herbert. James Herbert, actually, I should have used James Herbert as one of those people who inspired me, because I didn't realise that, like I did at the time, sort of people growing up, reasonably poor in the East End of London could actually end up being a writer. And when I came to learn about James Herbert's background, I mean, he grew up not far from where I grew up, and we had same interests: music, art. He was an artist. There was all kinds of little things, and I thought, well, it might not be such a weird thing for a bloke like me to do.
And thank goodness you did think that.
Well, yeah, some people think so.
Otherwise, I'm definitely one of them. Definitely part of the fan club of both of you.
Thank you.
Andrew, let's finish with this last question from Andrew. When the COVID is over and you get events, please come to Waterstones, as I will be there, from Andrew in Nottingham. That's really lovely.
Isn't that nice?
We'll have to get you Waterstones in Nottingham, so Andrew can come and see you.
Not really good with people,
Really? Yeah, that's not the vibe you give off at all.
Well, I'll tell you how good Andy is. He and I have never officially met, but we spent about 2 hours in the same room. Our publishers do. Yes. And I was there early, but Andy came in with his entourage, his hoes and bros, and nobody could get near him. So we spent about 2 hours in the same room, but never actually introduced ourselves to each other.
See how shy I am. I wish I'd known Tony. I really do.
Well, I was the same. I was in the background.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Gray.
And on that note, our hour is almost up. So do you want to give everybody a quick recap? And if you've got book covers at the side of you to show off, please do. Let everyone know what they need to go and buy.
Yeah, typically I came unprepared.
Same here.
So I'll just show this one off again for a minute. Criminal Shorts in Aid of Red Kite in Corby. Go and buy a copy and support a wonderful school and charity. And
there you go. We're both in that.
There we go. That was a good little time filler. Tony, off you go.
What am I supposed to do?
Show your book off and tell people where to buy it.
I haven't got a book. I've never written a book in my life.
Yeah.
Crying out loud.
I'll tell you what. I'll show you. I'll show you a bookmark. There's a bookmark. There you go. The autumn
Very
tree.
Nice of the autumn tree.
Yeah, the autumn tree. That's my most recent book, the autumn tree.
I was
it's a very nice bookmark.
So I did put a picture. There isn't an image that goes with this video, so the autumn tree and the team are on the image.
Oh well, thank you. You're more prepared than I am.
It's a good job, really, isn't it? Because I wasn't expecting to be here with you both for an hour.
Yeah, I've only known about this for about 4 months, so I've had little time to prepare. We were supposed to do a rehearsal last night. We slept through it.
Andy, you're a nightmare. I adore you, but you're a nightmare. Show off your book cover.
All right. Well, the early stuff is the Roger Coniston stuff. That begins with A Long Time Dead. Then my favourite, don't tell anybody, is Stealing Elgar. Then it's No More Tears. That's the end of the Roger trilogy. Then we go on to the third row. I don't have a paperback copy to show you. But we have got Black by Rose, look. Woo. And we've got The Death of Jessica Ripley. I loved that. And I also quite liked This Side of Death too. And I'm not being bigoted, but I do love writing. I really do. And you get such a kick out of it. This is the standalone, which is now out in hardback. I've done a hardback version. Woo-hoo! And it's in audio as well. The End of Life. Loved writing that. Woo! That was great. And this is the latest short. This is the latest novella, The Crew. That's Eddie Collins as well. I do all the novellas in first person, and that is a buzz to write first person. Don't you think, Tony?
I do, yeah. I wrote my 2 action thrillers were first person, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Most fun I've had writing, absolutely, far and away.
Really good.
Oh, I've got another book cover. Bookmark to show you.
Endless Silent Scream.
Oh yeah, well done. Yeah. There
Yes,
you
Donna,
go.
I am a
I've got loads of bookmarks, just no books. They're on the shelf behind me, and I'm way too lazy to walk over there to get them.
No, you'd end up knocking them all on your head like I do. Anyway, we're over time. Let's let everyone go and have the tea. Thank you so much to you both.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And
letting me gate crash.
Thanks for hosting it, Sam.
You're very welcome.
I really enjoyed it.
I'm really glad I prepared myself.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody for comments, questions,
Yes,
and
thank you.
helping me mock Andy and Tony. It's been so much fun.
Should we go
through great stuff
later on?
I'm going to hit the stop button now. Don't touch anything, you'll break it. Just smile for the lovely people.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.